The thing I found out about like people who have mommy issues or daddy issues, or like, this is how you know, is like they're typically mistreated by their caregiver, whether it be their mother or their father. In the rare odd case that they're mistreated by both, um they like typically like exhibit problem behaviors regarding relationships and social appraisal and like social approval. And I know it's like an ongoing joke or a stereotype that people with daddy issues will always look for approval from older men. And they typically go on dates with older men, whether or not they are aware of this. And they like to hang around older men, and they only look for strictly close personal relationship with older men without actually furthering their social circle. Those are people with daddy issues or mommy issues. Like, it happens either if you have mommy issues, you'll be for older women. If you have daddy issues, you'll be for older men. But I've actually noticed that their abusive behaviors and abusive tendencies are exactly what their parents are doing to them, but they're doing it to other people. So if there was a person who had like mommy issues and was abusive to her son, as in she mistreated her son and didn't give him her, like, not son, like it could be daughter too, him or her approval, or like a good job, or like, oh, that's was like when they're growing up they need that kind of like moral support and social support from their caregiver. And when they weren't given that, what happened what happens is that they typically do the abusive thing that their parents did to everyone else that they meet that aren't like they consider close personal relationships. I don't know if they're aware of this. So if their dad used to beat them for like saying something that he didn't like, right? If they have daddy issues, if that person's dad used to beat them for something that he didn't like, or maybe even verbally berate them, right? And because he didn't like it, then he would be doing that to everyone that he meets, to beat them or verbally berate them to everyone he or she meets, rather. Could be both either gender, in the case that they heard something from somebody that they didn't like. So if a person got, I don't know, like if they said something like something that was going against what their parents liked, then they continue got beaten for it, then that person would be doing that to other people. So they usually have like a target, right? So like an innocent person or something, or maybe not an innocent person. I don't know. Like, I've never seen somebody with parental issues do this to somebody who was deserving of it. It's typically to people that are supposed to be beneficial for them and their social life and their mental health. So they like initially they will like, I think it's instinctively they learn to reject people who are good for them. So those are people with daddy issues or mommy issues. Um, do they get better? I've only seen people who actually admit that they've changed their behavior after they admit rather, that their parents weren't the greatest parents that they had. Like, they're willing to actually openly discuss the fact that their parents were either abusive or the fact that they were mistreated by their parents. And apparently that's really hard for a lot of people. And I've just finally figured out that people who are doing all this like very abnormal and disrespectful things to me were doing this because they have daddy issues or mom issues. Some of them have been sexually abused as children. Again, a lot of these things, statistically speaking, don't go reported. So they don't report this to like authority figures in the community, such as police officers or their teachers, or I don't know, I guess the guidance counselors or something. And a lot of people don't even admit that it was sexual abuse. Like, I think they want to admit that it was sexual abuse if they understand that it has nothing to do with them or something. Like, yeah, they're really fucked up. Like, I've actually, when I was working as a barista, I actually saw a family who was sexually abusing their son. And they were like, I think they were intentionally instigating certain situations so the son couldn't go outside and make new friends and would be berated for doing so, and then would only be praised when he did something to appease the parents in a very inappropriate way. So he didn't get to have any contact outside of like his immediate family members and his parents. And that kind of like, I guess that warped his sense of identity and relationships, and also like his perception of what a healthy relationship is, because that's like what the parental caregivers were telling him, this is a healthy relationship, and it's not. And it takes a while for people to like actually be able to open up and admit that it wasn't okay and they were sexually abused. I mean, it's never like a, I don't know what that's like personally, to be fair. Like a lot of people who've gone through this, I've seen like, regardless of like whatever material belongings they have, never do well in life. Right? Like, it's just so useless. But like, I don't know if it's because that's what they're told by their parents, and they just literally listen word for word what their parents are telling them. Right? Their like entire self-esteem and self-identity relies on their parental caregivers, which is unhealthy. But I guess I know that there are like caregivers who intentionally antagonize and manipulate situations to make it seem like they're doing something right. Most people, as they get older, start to realize this, and they do their best to live their life as separate from their parents as they can, I think. Also, to be fair, I think a lot of people who are, like, including the police, who are attempting to coerce me into going back to the foster family is because their family setting is actually not that different. And to them, they didn't think it was that bad. So then that would have to mean that like they would have to unpack all of that like past trauma and then go through all of that like problems that they were facing, instead of just like pretending that there wasn't a problem, or like pretending that everything's fine, which is what a lot of people do. Most people who do that are alcoholics, I've noticed. Not all. But yeah, I mean, it's hard, definitely, to like be in that situation, and most people are already stressed out by like what they have to do to like, I don't know, get up every day or whatever. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I couldn't like live like that anymore, which is why I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I can like still, like, it feels like they're brainwashing me into a cult and forcing me to live a life that they want me to live for their own amusement, right? Which is psychopathic. So like, I'm not gonna like, you going along with what psychopathic or criminal people do or say is you enough for you to be incriminated in a crime. So it's not really like, if they have enough evidence to implicate you in a case, the defense of I just didn't know, or like I thought differently at the time, isn't actually a defense. So yeah, that's kind of, I mean, it sucks. That sucks actually. But like, because it's like, doing a good thing is like supporting your friends, but then like choosing the wrong friends will get you to prison, right? Like, because if they're doing that kind of stuff and like they don't tell you about it and they lie about it, right? And then like try to make it seem like it isn't and you're involved, then yeah, definitely enough to implicate somebody. But yeah, it's just, if you ever meet somebody who has mommy issues or daddy issues, I like, honestly, it seems like valiant, I guess, like to try and help them, but like they're not gonna get help. It's just not like you can put them to all the therapists in the world, all the psychiatrists in the world, and you know what? In psychiatry, they don't actually consider this an actual disorder. Like, yeah, they're in developmental psychology. There are definite like effects, social effects from neglect as a infant to child. But other than that, like they don't they have resources like in therapeutic techniques for people to reestablish themselves or like try to get along with most people in society, but typically it's like I don't know, like if you are trying to be friends with somebody and that person just has too much parental issues or dad issues or like is involved or has been through sexual trauma or abuse from a caregiver or other family members, it's really like as much as you want to be with there for that person, you can't really do much and they're always going to try to like take it out on you and they're always going to have emotional problems. So I think it's better for you to find them, like probably help them go to therapy, and then that's it. That's like honestly the most I would do personally from my experience. It's anecdotal, so I'm not really sure what other people would do. But if it was me, like it's really sticky to be involved because like then you're involving yourself with that person and their family, right? I mean, most people who are friends with somebody will be involved in their family in some way, but like you actually doing that will cause some sort of rift or like dynamic change in their family function. And even if it's dysfunctional, people typically don't take well to that kind of thing, which is why treatment is so hard for people with mental health illnesses. They either don't admit to their diagnosis or they don't stick with treatment in order for them to see a difference at the end of the treatment. So like, and a lot relapse is quite frequent with people who have addictions, which means like even after treatment, they're back to what they were doing before for whatever reason, which hurts them. So like it's gonna hurt them. It's gonna hurt you to see them hurt, right? You're gonna feel their pain all the time, and it's kind of like, I mean, at the end of the day, you have yourself to worry about, and you are not responsible for your friends' problems caused by other people, right? Like, I mean, your internal mental problems, like that part, you really can't do anything about. I mean, it's different from like giving a friend a place to crash or like buying them lunch or whatever. Like, that's different from like talking about like having sex with their dad. Like, that's, I think, like opening up a whole can of worms. Like, a lot of people don't want to go there. They'd rather just ignore it, I think.